Good evening, sci-fi nerds, and welcome to another episode of the Sci-Fi Movie Guide. This is the first time that we're ever going to be doing a Game of Thrones episode review. I've got Jason here with me.
Hello.
He's a huge fan, which I didn't know until I texted him and said, hey, you coming over to watch Game of Thrones? And he's like, yep.
Definitely.
So we just finished watching the episode. We made some notes, and now we're in front of the camera. So we're reviewing Season 7, Episode 6. And let's just jump right into it if you're okay with that.
The greatest episode ever?
It really was.
Wow.
Before this, I thought the episode in Season 3, when Tyrion had that brilliant move of sending the boat out into the lake in King's Landing with all the fire water. I don't know what that stuff's called.
I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
The green fire
water. And he, one flaming arrow takes out the whole thing. That was my favorite episode up until this episode. And now this episode tops everything.
There has been numerous fantastic episodes throughout the entire series. I mean, that episode, the episode, the Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah.
Phenomenal episode. The episode where...
The Red Wedding.
John goes up, and the whole episode, there was like 45 minutes of zombie attack.
Yeah.
Like... insane episodes. This one, though, it blended the story moving forward, incredible, amazing action sequences, some of the best CGI I think I've ever seen, movies, television, no matter what.
I was going to bring that up. Like, I wish that the CGI that they used in this episode was some of the stuff they were using in like movies like The Avengers and Batman v Superman, because this was incredible.
Yeah, well, I think it's a culmination of technology is catching up to the point where we can't tell the difference between what's real and what's not. Yeah. I mean, obviously, dragons aren't real, I think.
Boy, they sure look real.
They look so amazingly real in this. And for them to do this on a television budget, I know it's HBO and they're spending money, and this is their number one show, so they're going to drop a few more bucks on some key episodes. But just phenomenal, the CGI work.
So let's get right in. We're going to break it down almost scene by scene, and we're just going to read some. I've got some notes here. So you know what I want? Let's just start at the beginning when John and his band of thieves are heading over the wall, and they're going to get they're going to kidnap one of the Nightwalkers to bring him back to prove to everyone that this is real.
Right.
I absolutely love the banter. It reminded me of when you're a kid walking to school and you and your buddies are all talking and telling stories. I think that's something that this season has been missing, is the camaraderie and how groups from all different walks of life are just banding together for this one big evil.
Right.
What did you think of that?
I really liked that portion of the episode. I liked how they were bantering. I liked how they were developing character, and you could see them growing together. The one thing I have to say about that particular part of this episode is that it kind of really made other things in the series stand out, namely how long it takes to travel somewhere.
Well,
these guys actually spent the first 20 minutes walking a distance, and there's other times in the episodes where they're like, hey, I'm leaving for Dragonstone, and then the next scene they're there.
Well, from my understanding, a month and a half transpired in this episode. And they talked about that when they were making these final two seasons, that they were not going to have all this waiting time. They were going to skip pieces of the story that weren't good. So it's a month and a half in this one episode. And that's why it took them to get there. That's why when they sent that guy away back to the wall to send a raven to get Danny.
Right, it took him like 30 seconds to get
back. But really, that was a month and a half. Like, what's her name? Sansa says, I haven't seen Jon in weeks.
Right.
And really, she saw him in the last episode.
Right.
So that's how they're trying to let us know that these episodes are spanning months now, each one, because they don't want to waste time, because they only have, 2 episodes left this season?
I think just one. I think there's 7 episodes this season.
I thought it was...
I could be wrong.
Yeah, maybe it's 7. But I thought there was 2 episodes left.
There might be.
And then next season is 6 episodes?
Something like that. They were really short. And I know because they're doing truncated seasons, they do have to speed it up a little bit. it plays with your head a little bit, where in the first 6 seasons, it's all really drawn out, and they're sitting on the boats forever, and they're traveling down their King's Road forever. And then this season, it's just like, oh, let's go to this place, and the next scene,
and we're there.
Yeah, exactly. Like Danny on her dragon. I think the dragon might have some hyperspace capabilities. He's just there in a heartbeat.
So next, let's talk about when Arya confronts Sansa about the note that she wrote to Robb. Mm-hmm. So the thing, this was probably the weakest part of the episode for me, because I don't think Arya is stupid.
Exactly.
And
I agree with you.
I didn't like the fact that they made her stupid, because everybody and their pet dog knows that Sansa was under duress, like huge duress, when she wrote that letter. Like she was like raped and beaten, and like she did not want to write that letter. So for Arya to just play into that, like either they're playing her as she's gone mad because of all the things she went through, or they're playing her stupid. And I didn't really like that, because I love the character of Arya.
I agree with you. I really like the character of Arya as well. And it does seem that she's losing it a little bit. She knows how evil Littlefinger is. Yep. She was present where Littlefinger was talking to Tywin many seasons back. She knows how snaky he can be. She knows how evil Joffrey was. She knows how evil Cersei was. She knows how bad all those people are. And to just like throw her sister under the bus, basically, oh, well, you wrote this letter. And even her sister said, well, I was going through incredible hardships. I had to write the letter. They were forcing me to. Oh, they had a knife at your throat? Like,
yeah, basically they did.
They did. Yeah, exactly. They basically did, and said, you either write this letter or you're gone, right? And for Arya to play it like that, the only thing that I can think of is that she sees her sister talking with Littlefinger, and she already doesn't trust Littlefinger.
So she thinks it's a conspiracy somewhere going on. But
and obviously Littlefinger planted the note for her to find it, because chaos is a ladder, and he's the chaos master. Well, he loves to throw a little wrench in the works. And
he wants to have everybody off balance, so when it's time, he can come in, save the day, and look like the hero.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then we're going to get into when Tyrion and Dany talk about heroism. They're sitting there talking, and it's a really great scene. I really love that character development between the two of them. And then they talk about Tyrion tells Dany, you didn't have to kill the Tarleys, the father and son. You didn't have to burn them to death in front of everybody. Right. Because fear makes power brittle, because everyone wants you dead. Mm-hmm. That, to me, was probably the most powerful scene that Tyrion's had in a long time. And the fact that he stood up to Dany like that, and he's done it before, but not to that extent. Like when he tried to stop her from burning those guys and imprison them instead, and she just ignored him. He didn't push it because he was in front of all of the men. Sure. And you don't want to go against the queen. But, when he did it behind closed doors, he wasn't backing down.
Right. The same thing with Arya, with Dany. It seems like they're changing her character a little bit. Like, we spent 6 seasons with her being this very noble, very, I'm gonna free the people, all this kind of stuff. And
but what about the saying, power corrupts?
Yeah, well, exactly. And I was just gonna say, I caught myself there, because I remember and I don't remember the city that I was in, but where she freed some slaves and she hung the masters on spikes around the city.
She didn't have to do that.
She didn't have to do that, and she did that. So I guess that's there as well. And definitely power corrupts. Her father was the Mad King. Maybe that's playing into it a little bit. Maybe those are some of the demons that she has to fight. Maybe she has the tendencies to become mad. And now that she's gaining all this power, those tendencies are starting to creep in.
Yeah, and I can't argue a bit on that point. They've turned, and this is something Game of Thrones does incredibly well. They turn good people into villains, and they turn villains into good people. Yeah. I'm just going to throw an example out there. What do you think of Jaime Lannister? How do you feel about him?
He's been a roller coaster since day one.
Well, he pushed Bran out a window,
well, exactly.
And now everybody's rooting for him.
Yeah, I know exactly. He's been a complete roller coaster. We've hated him, we've loved him again, we've hated him again, we've loved him again, and now we continue to love him, and we're like, okay, this guy's got to do something great.
But doesn't that show what a great show this is, that they can play with our feelings like that, and we'll forgive somebody who pushed a kid out a window because he was having sex with his sister, and he didn't believe that he saw nothing.
Yeah.
And we like him. I'm rooting for him. Like when the dragon was going to breathe on him in the last episode, and his friend jumped and took him into the water. I was like, oh, I hope he lives. I hope he lives.
Yeah.
So that's why this show, the writers are amazing, and the directors and actors.
Oh yeah, fantastic,
incredible.
It's so odd for any story really to see characters go through such an arc, and not just side characters. Jamie is essentially a side character. He's not one of the main guys.
No, he's
not. A high-ranking side character, I'd say. But for the main characters to go through that same roller coaster where we absolutely adore Dani and we do nothing but root for her for the first 5-6 seasons, and now it's like, well, what's going on with her? Like, she's acting really weird and I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
So it is neat to see that kind of arc take place.
So we're just going to talk a little bit about the dead bear attacking.
Okay.
So we get to that next scene, and so the dead bear comes charging in, and they all attack it, and the guy pulls out his flaming sword, and maybe you can help me. I've never read the books. Do you know how he makes that sword light up, and is that just a magical sword?
I've only read the first couple books, and I know that they talk about it briefly, I think, in the second one, but in the movie there, it shows him like with his hand, he runs his hand across the blade and it flames up. That has something to do with the whole Lord of Light.
Okay.
And
not really that important.
Mystical power, yeah.
But when he stabs the bear and the bear's on fire, you brought up a really good point. I thought it was the fire sword that killed the bear, but you said no.
Well, if you watch that scene, he's fighting the bear and he does stab the bear and it catches on fire, but the bear's still going. The bear's still coming at him. And while he's got that guy pinned to the ground and he's attacking him, it looks like Jorah pulls out a dragon glass knife and runs it through the bear.
And once you said that, I remembered it, but I didn't know it was dragon glass. So that's cool.
Right.
Because we do know now that they're on the right track mining that dragon glass, and that's going to...
They need to come back with dragon glass arrow tips, and everyone's got a dragon glass dagger, and everyone's got a dragon glass spear, and the whole thing.
Yeah.
They need to come back there much better prepared than they were this time.
Now, I read online a couple things that, the bear attacking them was foreshadowing the battle. But to me, it was just filler. I didn't really see anything in that. Did you?
I don't know why you would need to foreshadow a battle that's coming 20 minutes later.
Yeah, okay.
That doesn't make sense to me, but it was a kind of a cool scene. Again, actually, it might go back to, something that happens later on in the episode. The Night King's got the ability to bring creatures back from the dead.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh.
So it's showing us that he brought this bear back.
He brought a bear back. Why couldn't he bring something else back?
Exactly.
You know what? There it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we get into Littlefinger in this episode. He's got a really small part.
No character arc. I've never liked the guy.
Yeah. No, and I think that's everybody loves to hate this guy. Mm-hmm. But you said that little part was actually really important.
Well, it's important in the web that he's weaving right now. He loves to throw that wrench in the works. He loves everything to be chaotic. He loves everything. He loves all for that to happen, just so he's got that ability to step in when he sees that opening. So even though his part was very small, the ramifications of what he did are becoming very large.
And so he tells Sansa that Brienne of Tarth is there to protect both daughters. Mm-hmm. So why is he planting that seed, and then just a little while later she sends Brienne away to King's Landing?
Well, I think the only reason that he planted that seed was to give Sansa some alleviation of fear, possibly.
So maybe a bit of comfort?
Yeah, because Arya clearly is a better warrior than Sansa is.
Without a doubt.
She could take out Brienne. Like, she's an incredible warrior. So, okay, you might not be able to take her out, but you know what? Brienne could, and Brienne's honor bound to do that if it came to that.
And see, that was just like I said, I didn't understand. That's her only saving grace at, up the north. And then she sends her away. Right. She sends her to King's Landing. So now you've got nobody there to protect you from Arya.
Well, I think even though she's having some issues with Arya right now, she trusts Cersei way less than she trusts Arya.
I suppose.
Right? So it's like, well, they're inviting me down here. I'm clearly not going. That's not going to happen. So I need to send someone that is honor bound to me, has shown that they're honor bound to me, and that I think I trust this person. So you go and stand in my place and you speak for me.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Now that was all first and second act. Now a whole lot happens in the third act.
Yeah.
And we're going to start with they go to capture the Night Walker. Then they wind up having to retreat to that stone island.
Mm-hmm.
Then they all surround and they start falling through the water. That part of the battle, I know I'm not giving it its due, but we'll talk about it. But that whole part, it was a pretty good battle, and they fooled me into a false sense of security because that was such a great battle. I didn't see the battle coming after. And I really liked that because I thought, oh, this is the big battle, but it wasn't.
Right.
And then they're all standing there, and I thought maybe it would end with the standoff, but it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, for them to be able to, so as actually that little side crew of White Walker zombie things that they caught up with, and he did kill the White Walker with his sword, and all the other dead army dropped except for one. A little convenient, but so then they captured him, and then he starts screaming, and then the rest of the crew comes over the hill, and that's when you know that it's going to hit the fan, and they've got to do something quick.
And they fought. I mean, that was a battle and a half.
Fantastic battle, and even some of the dialogue in the battle, I loved the interplay between Tormund and the Mountain, or not the
you
Mountain,
mean
but the Hound. Yeah, the Hound and Tormund. How they kind of didn't like each other, but they fought and they saw the value of each other as a warrior, and they had definitely had respect for each other.
Well, and I like the fact that what was his name? Ginger guy.
Tormund.
Yeah. I like the fact that Tormund was telling the Hound about how much he loves Brienne.
Oh yeah.
And the Hound's looking at him. You know her?
What? The one that almost killed me and left me for dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice little throwback to that scene. But you got to, as crude and as unbelievably rough those two guys are, you just love them to death, right?
Absolutely.
They're great characters.
So then we get to the part where Sansa does send Brienne away. We've talked about this. Cersei invites Sansa. Now, see, that's where I was a little confused as well. Cersei invites Sansa, or was Cersei inviting Jon Snow? Because Jon Snow's king of the North.
Right. I think she was inviting Jon Snow.
Okay, and because
he's gone, she's the one that should have gone.
Okay, and then she sends Brienne because she's like, I'm not going there to become another prisoner.
Right, exactly.
Okay, that's the clarification I was kind of wondering. Or I was wondering, did she know that Jon was away?
I don't think that she knew that Jon was away. I think that she's starting to play into the thing where Daenerys has invited herself to, let's get together and let's have a bit of a truce while we fight this other battle that's going on. So I think Cersei was playing off of that.
Yeah.
And Cersei's not just going to roll over. She's got some stuff in the works.
I can't wait to see
which we can talk a little bit about that later in the episode. She's got some stuff in the works, but I think that she was just doing that. Danny's coming over, you come over too. We'll all talk about this thing that's happening. Apparently there's some proof coming my way.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it. And then we can deal with the problem.
Okay. Then we get into Danny to the rescue.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. When she's wearing that white cloak and she climbs on the dragon and Tyrion's telling her, don't go. Right. You can't rule if you're dead. And she takes off on that dragon. I mean, I had shivers. Mm-hmm. It was so powerful. It was such a powerful moment, powerful CGI. I mean, I thought she was riding a real dragon.
Yeah.
And then she goes in there. then we get the part where the Hound is so stupid and he's throwing rocks
right.
to let them know, hey, overnight the lake froze again. You guys can come. It's morning.
Yeah.
That whole little area. What did you think of that part?
Well, they're stranded on that little island there, and he's throwing rocks and smashing them in the head, and he's like, this is good fun. And then he throws one a little short and it kind of skips across the ice, and they realize that they can come. Definitely, I know that there was a couple of guys that died there. I think they were, for lack of a better term, red shirts.
Yeah.
They were guys that we didn't really know who they were. They were along for the journey. Certainly in that scenario, and in it being Game of Thrones, we don't know who's going to die. You know, it could have been any one of those main characters. So you definitely feel a sense of threat. Like, oh no, something bad's going to happen, right? But then, yeah, like you said, Dany's got the winter clothes on. She flies up, and she just amazing when the dragon comes in. It just breathing fire and just taking out hordes and hordes of undead.
Now, I have to get back into the CGI of that scene too, because when he was breathing fire on the ice, they could have cheaped out and they could have just shown the people burning, but they actually showed the ice breaking apart. They showed water coming up. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had levels upon levels of CGI in there.
Oh yeah.
And I've watched a lot of movies with CGI, and you can tell good CGI and bad CGI. I love the movie Wonder Woman, but on all the reshoots, she was pregnant.
Right.
And when they're showing her in those reshoots, you can tell that they've CGI'd out the baby in her stomach. Like, they didn't spend a boatload of money to get rid of it, because it's all action scenes that they had to do it. Otherwise, they filmed her from here up.
Right.
And this, it was flawless.
Yeah.
It was just flawless. The fire, the water, the ice, everything, the people burning and running and burning. Like, I'm wondering if they used some of that special gel and actually had people running that were burning and it wasn't CGI.
I would imagine that they did. And you see that as a kind of a trend that's happening, where they're not just solely relying on CGI. And I'm not just talking Game of Thrones. I'm talking.
But Star Wars is doing it now. Half CGI, half real.
Yeah, you make things real that can be real, and, you know, make the things that are slightly out of focus CGI, and then it's harder to tell.
Yeah.
Right. Make the background things or add things with CGI, but, you know, keep a real base to it. And yeah, I would not be surprised if they had, you know, guys on fire. I know that they did that for the previous dragon scene with the Lannister army.
Okay, so they did.
I think that they broke a record for number of stuntmen on scene on fire at one time.
Okay.
Yeah, because the dragon comes down and, you know, basically does the same thing, and I believe that they did that. So they're doing that. They're using real, you know, hard graphics,
real effects with
CGI, and it's a perfect blend.
It was, and it was a perfect battle. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was the climax that we've all been waiting for. We haven't really seen the dragons in a battle yet.
Right.
We've seen little bits and pieces of them, but this was where you see, okay, she's powerful. Mm-hmm. And we'll get to something else in a minute, but at that moment in the show, I was like, no one can defeat her.
Yeah.
Like, she is going to take over the Seven Kingdoms.
No, I had the same thought. At that point in the show, it was like, well, are they going to kill the undead army in this episode? Like, is it over for them?
Yeah, and then they're going to get back to Cersei. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I was just like, oh my God, and, you know, at that moment again, I didn't like her before, and then all of a sudden she's the hero again. She went in to save Jon Snow. She's showing that, you know what, I don't just sit back on my throne. I get out there and I go with my troops.
Right.
So then we take a little bit of a hiatus because we go into the Night King. Mm-hmm. So the Night King, he pulls out that spear.
Yes.
And
he's got a wicked arm, I might add.
Yeah, I gotta say, why didn't he shoot for the dragon that was closest? Like, he picked the furthest one away, and when that dagger hit, again, the CGI of the blood squirting out
like
of the dragon,
fire blood kind of thing. Yeah, amazing.
I think what happened, when I rewatched it, because I rewatched it right after, and it went into the neck.
Oh, okay.
And he was breathing fire at the same time, so I think the fire came out of the neck, and then the blood came out too at the same time. So they again, layers of CGI. Mm-hmm. But when that blood and the dragon just came in and hit the ice, it was the most shocking thing. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming either.
And then I shed a tear when the dragon's dead and he just slips slowly back under the ice and into the water.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was just so sad. And they show Danny's face, they show John's face, and Danny's just heartbroken. John feels so guilty because it's all because of him that a dragon is dead.
Mm-hmm. And then they cut back to the Night King.
Yeah.
And he's got this sense of, I mean, he's very stone-faced all the time. He doesn't really show emotion, but even in that, you can see him welling up with pride. He knows that the battle is turned. And that feeling that we were feeling just a minute ago of like, holy cow, Danny's undefeatable and the dragons can't be stopped. Oh shit.
Yeah.
It's a totally different game now.
I don't swear on this show, but I said holy F
Beep.
word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, Game of Thrones can still surprise me after 7 seasons, and that's why this show is so amazing.
Oh yeah.
I thought I had seen it all, and nope, here we go, another big surprise. I knew eventually a dragon had to die.
Right.
I really thought somehow, like, they're building up to it when they foreshadowed with, they had that spear. I knew a dragon had to die, but I didn't know it was going to be this powerful.
Well, exactly. I mean, going back to that giant crossbow that they built, and when they showed it in the basement, it like flew through the dragon's skull. You're thinking, oh wow, this thing is really powerful. But under battle, a guy still got to shoot it. He's got to aim it, and he hit Drogo in the wing, and it hurt Drogo. But
he just kept going.
Not too bad, and he took the thing apart. And at that time, you're thinking, well, holy cow, like these guys can't be stopped. But you've got a guy with an amazing pitching arm and a magical spear, and very short work of the dragon.
He should be in the Olympics for that.
Javelin throw.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we get, sorry, I'm just going back into the notes. John. So John doesn't get on the dragon. John, fighting everybody off, tells them, get out of here, get out of here.
Yeah, that was a little odd, I thought.
I did too. I mean, again, we all know John's the hero, and he will sacrifice himself. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's done it before, and he'll do it again.
It seemed unnecessary at that point. Take a couple more swings, jump on the dragon.
Get on the dragon, and let's get out of Dodge.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with you, 100%. But he does stay behind, and he gets tossed in the water, and again, we think John's dead. And then Uncle Benjen to the rescue.
Right. Now,
I knew Uncle Benjen had turned. He was a Night Walker, but
they had showed that at one point where he was kind of a half-breed thing, yeah.
But again, I didn't see that coming.
No.
I had forgotten all about it. They had set it up.
And it's kind of a big question, like, since that last time that we saw him, what's he been doing?
Yeah, has he just been walking with them, scouting, seeing what's going on? Like maybe he was just in the crowd and then he said, oh, I got to show myself. Because now we know he's probably fully dead because they got him again.
Right. So you think he had the ability to blend in with them?
I think that's what he was doing. That's just my guess. But I think he was in there all the time walking and waiting for his moment that he had to do something to help. But that's just my opinion.
Okay.
And so then we go into a little bit off the battle for a minute, and Sansa finds Arya's faces.
Yeah, that would definitely be a really, really creepy thing to find.
Especially your sister.
A bag full of faces.
Yeah, you're expecting to open this thing up and maybe find some mementos of your childhood. Nope, it's a bag of faces.
Yeah.
And so that's when Arya really tells her story to Sansa.
Yeah, and she doesn't really hold back, does she?
It scares the crap out of her.
Yeah.
Scares the crap out of her. Even if she wasn't scared before,
yeah.
She is super afraid of her sister. And I think that might be the jumping off point where maybe Sansa tries to kill Arya.
I don't know if she would do it herself.
No, but she might, plan something or...
Possible. And I thought it was really interesting, the fact that Arya spilled the beans. She told her entire story, or, most of it, and told her exactly what she was, and threatened her, scared the crap out of her, but then gave her dagger. It's like, you know what? Here, you hold this. Like, I'm not afraid of you.
And
it doesn't matter.
I didn't understand, though, why the dagger.
I think just to show Sansa that she's not afraid of her.
Okay.
Like,
There's nothing
this
you can
weapon
do.
I'm threatening you with, here, you hold it. Because it doesn't matter.
You could try stabbing me, but you'll be dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so it was just a power play.
Yeah. Because she said, I could cut your face off and become you. But you know what? You hold on to this. Yeah. I'm not going to do that right now.
And that, again, that's just scary.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, we know that Arya, like, at least I think, this is my prediction for the future, is that Arya is probably going to come to a vicious end. Whether it's Littlefinger, whether it's Sansa, or whether she tries to kill Cersei, and, you know, maybe Jaime saves Cersei. I don't know.
I think if Arya comes to a vicious end, there's going to be a vicious end for somebody else too.
Agreed.
I think that if that happens, she takes somebody down with her.
Yeah.
In a gruesome way, because hers has been one of the more gruesome parts of the storyline, and yeah, I mean, she still has a few names at the top of her list, and Sansa's name might be
hitting the list.
Hitting the list at some point. And what's odd is I thought that Littlefinger's name would be on the list because of the interaction that she saw. And if you go back and watch that scene where she's posing as the boy and she's the Tywin's handmaiden, basically, there's a scene where Tywin and Littlefinger are talking, and he's talking about how he just betrayed the Starks and he's doing it for the Lannisters and he's trying to win Tywin's favor. So she was standing right there, so she knows exactly what he's done and how much of a snake that he is.
Yeah.
Maybe she doesn't know the extent of what he did, that he's the guy that actually gave up Jon or Ned Stark. Maybe she doesn't know that exactly, but she knows that he's a snake. So I'm really surprised that he's not on the list.
Maybe he'll be the last one. Maybe she's keeping him around because he's keeping everybody off base. I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, and then the whole thing where he was able to throw her off, like with all of her ninja abilities or whatever that she gained, he knew that she was following her.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a little weird, but...
So now we come to almost the end of the episode, and Dany's waiting on the wall, and she's like, oh, just give him another minute, just give him another minute. And Jon, you know, comes up on the horse, and then they cut right into the bedroom scene where he's laying there, and she looks at his chest, and she sees all the scars.
Right.
And I think that was a defining moment for her. I think when she saw the scar to his heart, and she remembered before somebody said he took a sword to the heart for his people,
right.
I think she was going to stop asking him to bend the knee at that point. I think she was going to consider him an equal. Then he wakes up, and they have that loving embrace, brother and sister.
Cousins.
Cousins.
Or niece and nephew, I think.
Well, they're related somehow.
She's his aunt. She's his aunt.
She's his aunt.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, there's a little bit of a look and a little bit of a handhold, and then he bends the knee. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I saw this coming a long time ago. I didn't think Jon ever wanted to be king. And I said, when the time is right, he will bend the knee. He'll join forces with her, maybe join houses with her. Who knows what's going to happen. But I loved it. I wanted to see Jon bend the knee because he never wanted to be the king. He could be Warden of the North just like his father was. I think it's beautiful justice. She says to him, well, will your people follow you? They'll, you know what? Don't worry about that. Mm-hmm. When they see the White Walkers coming, they're not going to care whether I'm king or not. He didn't put it that way, but
right.
What did you think about him? All that.
I thought it was great that he bent the knee. I think the reason he didn't want to bend the knee because he doesn't want to bend the knee to a title.
Yeah.
Right. And at that point, he doesn't know her. All he knows is that she's claiming to be the queen, the rightful heir to the throne. She was the daughter of the
Mad King.
The Mad King. Yes, she has some claim to the throne, and yes, she has dragons, and yes, she has an army. Yes, she's powerful, but it's just a title at this point. I'm not bending my knee to you. But once he comes to trust her and see that she would sacrifice or put herself and her children essentially in harm's way
to save him,
and to save this cause that they're going to show Cersei a dead soldier, so you know they can gain allies, tentative allies. But I think once he saw that she was willing to do that, then he knew that she was an honorable person. So he's bending his knee to that person and not just the title.
Yeah,
right?
and it was again, it was a chilling scene for me. It was just heartfelt. He calls her Danny at first, and then she goes, "Oh, now you're calling me Danny?" And he goes, "Well, how about, was it my liege or my queen?" He said,
My queen, yeah.
How about my queen? And you could see the tears welling up in her eyes.
Right.
Like, again, that actress, who plays Danny? What's her name?
Amelia Clark.
Oh my God, she's a good actress.
Yeah.
She is phenomenal. She doesn't get enough credit, I don't think, in this show. Like, everybody always talks about Cersei and Jon Snow's acting, but I think she's probably one of the best actresses.
She plays this very stoic character, right?
But we know that's hard to do too.
Yeah, it's very hard to do, but when she can break that character and give us that emotional stuff too, then yeah, it definitely shows a good range.
Yeah. And when we get to the final scene, I'm gonna let you start this, because I don't know what to say. I'm so speechless when they have all those chains and the walkers are pulling.
So we just finished that huge battle. We have this emotional scene. I'm thinking, okay, this emotional scene just happened. John bent the knee, credits roll.
That's what I thought.
I completely forgot. I completely forgot about the dead dragon. And then, no, they cut back north of the wall, and these zombies are dragging chains. And for like a second, I'm just like, why are the zombies dragging? Oh, it just hits you like a ton of bricks. They're dragging the dragon out of the lake. Oh, no.
And then, to your point, they had already foreshadowed the bear. So,
well, they foreshadowed the bear. And actually, if you go back to the first episode of this season, it's a brief scene where they show the dead army walking, and it's just showing them making their travel down south, and it's right at the very end of the scene, a giant comes into view, and we can see an undead giant, and you think, oh, he's got a giant, oh no, and just as the scene is ending, two more of those giants come into view. So
the three,
we know that he's got the ability to bring back creatures, magical creatures, giants, whatever, and there's three of them. When I very first saw that, I thought the dragons are in trouble.
So you foreshadowed 3 for 3.
I thought that was foreshadowing. The 3 giants, 3 dragons, 3 massive giants.
Yeah.
I thought that was foreshadowing that he has the ability to bring these dragons back if that opportunity ever arose. And
sure as hell he did. That blue eye opening.
Oh yeah.
It was creepy.
Stunning, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, great CGI, but to me, it was so creepy seeing the dragon with the blue eye. And then I talked to you about this. Is that dragon now going to be breathing ice? Well,
very possibly, yeah. I mean, he's got some magical abilities now. He's imbued some magic on him. I doubt it's fire, because fire doesn't go really well with their whole shtick. So.
And can you imagine the CGI of breathing all these flying icicles, stabbing through people?
Or everyone freezing in frame, you know?
Yeah, like either one. It could be, like water turns to ice, or like, could you imagine just all these icicle daggers just flying out of his mouth and impaling people down on the thing, and you just see like people being cut in half by ice.
Right.
I mean, I hope they do that, because I really want to see it done. But I'm sure Game of Thrones has something even better planned than what we could imagine.
Well, interestingly enough, when this happened, I start frantically searching the web for something that I can, read into this or find out about it. And this isn't happening in the books, so there's no one out there talking about this right now. But oddly enough, back in 1980, George R.R. Martin wrote a children's book, and that children's book is called The Ice Dragon.
And I've never read it.
I've never read it either.
Okay.
But I just, like, what a kind of revelation. Like, all of this stuff has been going on in his head for ages. And apparently the children's novel isn't a part of the expanded Game of Thrones canon. But just interesting that he's had the idea of ice dragons that far back. And I think that we're going to get an ice dragon. So I think the king's going to be riding it.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be some
Danny
aerial battles
on one side, the king on the other, the dragons come to head.
It's a song of fire and ice.
Does it happen this season? Does it happen in the last 2 episodes, or is it next season?
Yeah. If there's another major battle between our heroes and our villains, I think it's got to be the final battle. So if that happens,
next season.
I think it has to be next season, unless that because this thing is the Song of Fire and Ice. Like the series of books is called A Song of Fire and Ice. That's what this whole thing is about. It's about the dragon fires and the ice guys coming together. And I think once that's over, the rest of the story is inconsequential.
I just can't wait for once that episode airs and we see them fighting in the air, the fire dragon and the ice dragon. I need somebody to create me a wallpaper so that I can put that on my computer, because that's going to be the most popular wallpaper of all time.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, the way that George R.R. Martin writes, and I think it's even a quote in the series sometime that says, if you think this is going to end well, you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be messy, and I don't know that we're going to get a happy ending.
So, you know what? I sure wouldn't put it past Game of Thrones to leave us with the Night King sitting on the throne. I wouldn't put it past them. Mm-hmm. So that's our review of this episode. Jason, let's just quickly, before we end the episode, tell me what your predictions are to the end of the season and to the end of the series. Like anything that you think's gonna come out of left field, or anything that you want to predict?
I do have a little bit of a prediction, a thought that I had, because they're trying to join forces with Cersei, and she's not dumb. She knows that she's got to play the game if she wants to stay on the throne. So I think that she will join forces with them, but I think that she's going to do it, and like Littlefinger, she's going to look for her opening. And I think one of those openings is she has those crossbows still. She still has that technology.
Yeah. They
destroyed one, but I'm sure they've got more. So I think that they're going to bring those to battle. And, I guess we need those in battle because he's got an ice dragon. But I think that at some point, she'll turn it and she's going to be shooting at our dragons.
Okay.
I think that she's going to betray them in the heart of battle.
And the one prediction that I want to make, and I've been saying this from the beginning, is somehow I think that Cersei and Dany are both going to die, and Jon's going to wind up on the throne, on the Iron Throne. I think it's going to be him at the end. He'll be the only one left alive. Maybe a couple minor characters. Maybe Tyrion will be his hand. I don't see them killing Tyrion. So I think maybe that's how it ends. That's just my prediction. Might change next episode and they all die. Who knows?
You never can tell.
Yeah. But you know what? It's more important for you to tell us what you think. How is this series going to end? How's the season going to end? And how's the series going to end? If you could put that in the comment section, that'd be fantastic. I'd love to see it. Like this video. It helps us with views. Jason, where can the good people find you?
Easiest place to find me is over at Instagram. I am at Vintage Star Wars. Send me a message, like me, hate me, whatever.
And you can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Movie Guy Sci-Fi, or you can email me any questions, movieguySci-fi@gmail.com. And remember, everybody, winter is here. Dragon.